Tuesday, World Economic News, and we'll start with Afraid to Trade, Corey at ATT. He's got some decent charts up. The first one is it's looking for correlations, and this is what a lot of these trader chappies do, and chapesses. This first chart is the S&P with the 10-year Treasury on the same chart, and it's looking to see if one goes up, one goes down, is there any correlation? And they should trade inversely, because if money comes out of stocks, it's likely to go into treasuries. So when one goes up, the other one should go down. And this obviously is normally what happens. And this chart shows that from July to November of last year, they didn't. They tracked together, and this was obviously warped by Ben Bernanke, but now they're trading apart again as per normal. On the next chart, it's the SPX, which is the Standard & Poor's, again, tracked with gold. And since the middle of the year, or call it coincidence or not, the stock market's gone up and gold prices have gone up. Looking for correlation. And they look for correlation because if you're paid to be a trader, you want to put your bet on right. So you're looking for, you're betting on, say, A. You want to look what A is correlated with. If A is correlated with B, and you've seen that B's gone up, you think, well, it's correlated with A, so A should go up, so I'll put my bet on A. And this is what this is all about. And whether these people are actually finding correlations and betting right, or seeing their correlations, putting their bets on and making the correlations happen, it's impossible to know. But these are what these whiz kids are doing, because obviously nobody knows what the future is, so they try and look for the answer in charts like this. The next one is with crude oil, and all through last year, up, down, up, crude oil, SPX track exactly the same, absolute correlation. You know, obviously there's a bit of a wiggle out, but generally up, down, up, up. Okay, so there is good correlation there, and people will be putting big bets on that correlation stays the same, and that correlation will stay the same until it doesn't. Moving on to New York Times Business Day, and a magnificent chart. Even the picture that I'm putting up on the website won't give you the full extent of its marvelousness. You'll have to follow the link on the website to go to the New York Times to use the chart. It's kind of a bit, it's so hard to describe, but it's got a running scale down this side, which was 1920 all the way up to the present day. And if you invested, say, in 1920, it shows each year 1, 2, 3 going across this way, and obviously this is long across the top, where 10 years ago it's only short because there's only 10 years that happened. You see, get the idea of a triangle. So if you invested in 1930, you see how you did as the years went by going across, and it's 1970, and it changes color from red to ecru to green, and it's just, it's a fascinating chart. And it's so hard to describe, you've really got to follow the links. But it is, I thought it was fun. The Hill, and that's Washington. Blog briefing room, Graham, no vote to increase debt ceiling without spending. Entitlement reforms. Senator Lindsey Graham said Sunday he will not vote for the debt ceiling increase unless it's accompanied by spending and entitlement reforms. On NBC's Meet the Press, Graham said he wants to see spending back to 2008 levels with cuts in discretionary spending. Let's see if we can find a bipartisan reform on Social Security before we raise the debt ceiling, said Graham. Calling the debate a good opportunity to find common ground, the senator said it was necessary to begin enacting the Debt Commission's recommendations on entitlement reform before it's too late. You will have noticed that the first big bite out of the credibility of Social Security has now been taken, and they will keep biting till it's all gone. For a TV, Niall Ferguson, doing a speech, Empires on the Edge of Chaos, down in Australia, Australian Broadcasting Corporation. It's worth watching. It's slightly different from the one that I posted on the website a couple of months ago, and it's different enough to be worth watching as a reminder of that one, but it should be watched anyway. But note again, he's not an economist. Not that economists are so brilliant, but he's not an economist. He's an economic historian. So always to be taken into account when he's talking of money and stuff. It's not actually his business. Daily Telegraph, but Daily Telegraph down under, Australians seeking under debt burden. Australia is heading for an economic crunch as family finances collapse under the burden of record debts, rising interest rates and utility bills, with banks warning they will be forced to raise mortgage rates by 0.5% in 2011, and Sydney rents forecast to rise between 160 and 190 Aussie dollars a month, according to analysts. Repossessions and tenant evictions are expected to rise sharply. It's gonna be tough, said Shane Oliver, chief economist at AMP Capital. Families face many rising costs while most people have slowed down their borrowing. Debt is still growing, and that's still a big problem. And that's it, you see. Families face rising costs, slowing their borrowing, but it's no good because your debts are still hanging there. It was all going to be all right as long as the world economy was all going to be all right. But it's not going to be okay. Okay? New York Times again. Career shift often means drop in living standards. Even the lucky ones are not so lucky, it seems. A new study of American workers displaced by the recession sheds light on the sacrifices a large number have made to find work. Many, it turns out, had to switch careers and significantly reduce their living standards. Unfortunately, this is it going forward. Living standards are going to drop because wages are going to drop, and the ability to pay debt is going to drop. And obviously, the future expectations of everything are going to drop. So much of the Western world was predicated on the dreams of the future. And when people start realizing this, it's going to get very droopy. New York Times again. Europe's young grow agitated over future prospects. Another good article from the United States on Europe. Lecce, Italy. Francesca Esposito, 29 and exquisitely educated. I'll cut out bits. It galled her that even with her competence and fluency in 5 languages, it was nearly impossible to land a paying job, working as an unpaid trainee lawyer she was for the government. It was absurd, said Ms. Esposito, a strong-willed woman with a healthy sense of outrage. Later we find that she was the daughter of a fireman and high school teacher. Ms. Esposito was the first in her family to graduate from college and the first to study foreign languages. She has an Italian law degree and a master's from Germany, and was an intern at the European Court of Justice in Luxembourg, and it has not helped her. I have every possible certificate, Miss Esposito said dryly. I have everything except a death certificate. And the article finishes with Miss Esposito saying, I'm a repentant college graduate. If I had to do everything over again, I wouldn't go to college. I'd just start working. And unfortunately, the last great big idea for everybody was fill your brain full of stuff and get ahead of those foreign bastards. Them foreign bastards have caught up, and your head full of stuff might only cause frustration going forward. Gregor, US, gives us Happy New Year from the North Sea, or secrecy by complexity. Gregor's a good man. The dramatic fall of the Mexican oil production and its largest field, Cantarell, is often cited as a signature example of the problems facing non-OPEC supply. Since the production highs of 2004-05, Mexican production has lost over 800,000 barrels a day, which is fairly dramatic for a country which was producing 3.4 million barrels a day as recently as 5 to 6 years ago. But as accelerated as these declines have been in Mexico, another oil producing region has seen even quicker declines, the North Sea, which comprises United Kingdom offshore, Norway, Denmark, Netherlands offshore and Germany offshore, has lost 25% of its production in less than 24 months, falling over 1 million barrels a day. Whoops. Lovely chart showing this. And he says, I mention this because as 2010 comes to a close, it appears that for the fifth year in a row, the peak production year of 2005, in which the world produced oil at a rate of 73.718 million barrels a day, will once again not be exceeded. And this is truly astonishing given the new pricing era for oil that began in 2004. In other words, all these price rises they've had in the last 5 years still haven't exceeded the 2005 pumping rate. How do you think the future is going to be? If you're planning for rosy, because it's the optimistic and decent thing to do, just have a little pocket of room for the fact it might not be. Because you could well be setting yourself up to be dreadfully disappointed. Have a good day.